So then we went to New Guinea. That was an interesting place, beautiful place. And as soon as we got off the ship, there goes a truckload of women, nurse, and they gave us the hoorah. Oh yeah, Ray! And we were embarrassed. Here we are in new uniforms. So they took away all our uniforms and gave us summer uniforms, including Australian shoes because they didn't have any American shoes. So I had to give up my boots, give up all my clothes. And we were there about a week. We went on patrol a couple of times because the Japs were dropping parachutists down on New Guinea. Yeah, when we got there, we couldn't believe these turtles were big. They were as big as that jay almost. Well, we'd get on top of them, and of course, they would immediately head toward the water. Well, we were smart enough to know that once they got in the water, it's their battleground, so we'd hop off, you know. But I watched the guy hold a 2x4 out, and that turtle snapped it in half. So we didn't play with the turtles. They were big turtles. You could not tell the people in New Guinea hardly from a man from a woman. They both only wore loincloths. The men had biggest breasts as most of the women, and they were all black. I'm not talking about brown now, I'm talking about black. And they hated the Japanese. I saw a picture, not the article, that one of the guys had offered a guy a t-shirt. They loved our t-shirts. They were white t-shirts. And they offered him if he would give him a Japanese head. And the next morning there's a stake in front of his tent with a Jap head on it. They would go up to the Jap and give him a coconut, open it up and hand it to him. The Jap would go like that, and while he's like that, the head would go. They did not like the Japs. And the first ones there taught these guys terrible language. He'd come up, hello, son of a bitch. They thought that was an honorary greeting, you know. They had some terrible language. The missionaries must have gone nuts when they got back to New Guinea. See, New Guinea has headhunters in it, on the highlands. That's a wild place, that New Guinea. It's a beautiful place. I was on patrol one time and almost stepped on an alligator, or a crocodile, I don't know which one it was. It was laying on the path, I thought it was a log. And I started going and it started moving, and I said, whoa, not me. That's a wild place.
And the people there, they liked the American soldiers?
And they did because they hated the Japanese. And we gave them things. We were kind to them. We didn't. There may have been some people in inland. Japanese dropped some paratroopers inland, and we had to go get them. And that was not fun. So I'm glad we wasn't in New Guinea very long. But it was hot. Every day at 2 o'clock it rained. Every day. They didn't miss a day. We would head for our tents at quarter of. And at 2 o'clock, it would rain for about half an hour. Then it would stop, just like that. And then steam coming up. No one is tropical. That's a wild place, New Guinea.
And you were only there for a week?
Hmm?
You said you were there for about a week?
Just about a week, I think, as I remember. I remember I stood in line like a dumbbell for 45 minutes to get a Hershey bar. When they handed it to me, it was all melted. It wasn't a Hershey bar any longer. And I didn't need a Hershey bar. That was a habit. I just left the States 3 weeks ago. We stopped briefly at the Admiratly Islands, but we had actually invaded Leyte. The Admiratly Islands were we had just about conquered it. But they had what they called, what did they call those things? They were little, they weren't little. They were like a big frog, but they would come in from the ocean and they would follow each other's tail in the sand. And then they'd fall into your foxhole, and they were big. It was something like a crab, but rather large. And so we would draw little lines around our foxholes so they would follow a false trail, you know. But now and then one would meander off and you'd lump in. And at nighttime when it's dark and you can't light a cigarette because it gives away your position, it's terrible being in a foxhole with something strange, that big and with snappers on it. And then we made all the invasion of Leyte with General MacArthur. He was a couple of rows behind us, but he was there too. And we had an easy time. I mean, we didn't meet any resistance. Now went ashore and we were in a big tent. So I was sleeping and I wake up and there's no tent. It's just the sky. And what happened? There's no men in the tent. I'm all alone. And so I get up out of the tent. I'm really scared. And what happened, I walk over and there's a ditch beside it. And there's all of my men in the ditch. The sergeant, the corporal, and I looked at it and what the hell's going on? I said, excuse my French. And he said, Matt Carter, what are you not killed? He said, get down here. And then he changed his mind and told everybody to get up. During the night, Japanese planes came in, swooping and bombing, and our aircraft were shooting at them, and our aircraft blew a tent away. And right next to the tent was the Japanese plane with a Japanese soldier, dead of course. But that was my close call. That was, so I joined the group and we went in, and as we went in we started forming, and I didn't have a gun. Every place I stopped, they said, oh, you don't get a gun. I said, what do you mean I don't get a gun? He says, well, it says radio operator. He says, you're a radio operator. I said, look, I don't have a radio and I don't have a horse. So every time I'd go, they'd say, all right, who doesn't have a weapon? No, you don't get one. I said, I didn't know the alphabet that well. So I started climbing, we started climbing this mountain. Leyte has a lot of mountains, one after another, slipping and sliding on that mud. And I walked down the mountain and they stopped to let stretcher bearers go by. And he stopped right by me and covered up the guy's face. So I knew he was dead, so I reached over on his stretcher and took his M1 rifle, which was the rifle. It was muddy and beat up, but I loved that gun, just the idea to have some. And so they went on past and we went on up. It was loaded with tracer bullets. And he was a spotter for the machine gun. He would spot the enemy and he'd fire, and the tracer bullets would go right to the enemy and the machine gun would go put its tracers with it. But we were up there some 80 days, which was a record of that in combat. And when I came out of that mountain, I took off my shoes and socks and I didn't even recognize my feet. They were white as a sheet of paper, because I had been in a foxhole in water. And in our foxholes we had dug a little hole underneath, so when the Japs threw a bomb or something in there, it would go down in that hole and explode. But everywhere we went, the officers would say, all right, stop here and dig in. We'd start digging. There wasn't any ground, it was all roots. The trees were probably as big as any trees, the redwoods. and they were huge trees, and the roots were all over the ground. There wasn't any ground to dig until somebody fired a shot at you and you got your shovel out and started digging. But we were there over 80 days, came down for a rest camp, and some fresh replacements were coming up. Oh, they had clean uniforms, no beards, everything was beautiful. And I'd say, take care of yourself, they're really mad at us up there. And give me your mother's name, I'll write to her and tell her what happened to you. And they just started cussing us because we were chewing them out. Well, that was just after Thanksgiving. And then they went down and to camp, and they had ordered fresh turkeys. They had ordered fresh potatoes. We had a banquet, and it was the worst thing in the world they could have done because everybody got sick as a dog. And all night you hear slice, slice, slice to the latrine. Slice, slice, slice. The dirt, it turned into mud about that deep. And well, we ate that turkey. That was delicious. And I forgot what year it was. In fact, I forgot my own birthday that year. And until I was in a camp, they brought me a box of mail because my mother wrote every day. Every day. My aunt wrote now and then. My girlfriend once or twice a week. It was a different girlfriend then. But I had to sort them all out so I could answer them in order. What happened that they caught a Jap and they almost beat him to death. And they brought him into camp. And guess what? They put him right next to my tent. And they said, well, we're going to save his life, we're going to need oxygen. The oxygen tanks is pouring down rain now. Mud is that deep. So I couldn't let the guy die. I mean, I hated the Japs. I was scared of them. So I went out with a buddy and to get an oxygen tank. I don't know if you ever saw an oxygen tank, but they're like a torpedo. And then top it off, they're slippery when they're wet. So we're just in pajamas and holding this tank down. It slips out of our hands and disappears in the mud. So we go down in the mud and we pull this oxygen tank up. Meanwhile, they're holding this Jap in the cot. He's saying all kinds of stuff where nobody knew. So they get the oxygen to him, they put the tank over his face, and he does like that, and he dies right in front of us. All that work. So anyhow, I had to go back to camp because my feet were a mess by now. When I came back, they had promoted everybody in the outfit to private first class, except one. I wasn't there. So they didn't have my name on the list. So when I walk into the tent area, they say, hey, private, shine my shoes. Hey, private, are you watching, did you look at the bulletin board? So they gave me the devil. Well, Leyte Island, well, I think I told you about our invasion there. We met no resistance hardly at all. But what we didn't know, we blew down a lot of coconut trees, and what they were a coconut tree plantation. So we had to pay the Filipinos for every coconut tree we knocked down. $10 a piece, we heard. And they were huge trees. But the Filipinos could climb those trees easy. They would just put their arms around them and boop, boop, they were right on up. No American could climb a tree. But the Filipinos were barefooted and they were used to these coconut trees, and they'd bring down a bunch of coconuts for us. So we tried to, they have a little knife called a machete, and they'd chop that coconut off and hand it to you, and you had to drink. It was sort of like 7-Up, sort of that consistency. It wasn't sweet, but it was cool, and our thirst was great, because Well, we would go through and shoot. We have little carbines, so we'd shoot the coconuts and try to catch them in a